What's going on, you guys? My name is Mo Awesome from Awesome MTB. I'm sorry there was no video the last 2 days. We were just absolutely slammed and in a rush to get out of town, get on the road, head towards Canada. We're finally out of town, we're finally on the road, we're en route to Canada. I just had to kind of buckle down, just crank out a bunch of work before we took off. So thank you guys for your patience in that. Now, before we get to the road trip videos, and there is going to be a lot of them. So if you want to follow our journey, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you're not following me on Instagram, I'm going to make sure I just document the whole thing there as well. It's at MoAwesome. But yeah, so before we get into the road trip videos, I did promise you guys a video on my meeting with the Rangers and the current trail situation in Laguna. So here is that video. Now, before we get into this video, I just want to say that normally I can just talk to the camera. I'm pretty good at that, and I have a general ideas of what I want to talk about, and I just kind of go as it comes. And this video is a little bit different just because I know it's such a sensitive topic and there's so many user groups affected by what I'm going to have to say that I wanted to make sure that I got my point across and just made sure that it was the actual things that I wanted to say and I didn't kind of diverge too much. So I made sure to actually write the whole script down for this video. I went through it 100 times. I showed it to friends, I showed it to other user groups, and I just kind of got feedback from a variety of users and just made sure to kind of keep that in mind as I was going through it while also staying true to my own morals. So that being said, I am going to read it off of the script just because I've put so much time into this. The only bummer is it might look a little bit awkward just because we don't have access to a printer. So I'm actually going to be reading it off my laptop, but I have put so many hours into this and I really feel like I need to relay this message across to everyone out there. So with that being said, here is my thoughts on the current trail situation in Laguna. First off, I would like to thank everyone for their patience as I put together my thoughts on the current trail situation in Laguna. Normally I can crank out a video in a few hours, however this one is a little bit different, especially considering how many different user groups are probably watching this. We have the Rangers watching. We have riders who only choose to ride authorized trails watching and couldn't fathom why riders would choose to go off the map. We have a user group who only finds challenge in unauthorized trails and views authorized trails as not only less fun, but more dangerous as well, considering how many more users are now in the park. We have groups who think everyone but themselves should stick to authorized trails only. We have hikers who can't really comprehend what mountain biking really is and just view the sport as dangerous from the few interactions that they've had with riders. And we have equestrians who, even though might not have the largest number of users in the park, have every right as mountain bikers to be there. Speaking to an audience this broad is not easy, especially while trying to remain true to myself and my own beliefs on the issue as well. As a few of you know, I had a meeting with the Rangers a few days ago. You can only imagine how nervous I was going into this. Those nerves definitely grew when I showed up to the meeting and saw 5 Rangers sitting down in front of me. The meeting lasted about 3 hours, and over the course of it, there were definitely a few heated moments when we were both discussing our sides and points. However, that's all they were. The entire conversation was civil between both of us. Never once did I feel like they weren't listening. Never once did either of us leave the room in frustration. No one played the "we are out of time" card here. It was an open conversation where both parties were speaking, listening, and most importantly, respecting each other. Something that I feel is going to play a crucial role to fixing the relationship between Rangers and mountain bikers. There were a few things that stood out to me from the meeting, none of which were a feeling that the Rangers are the enemy. In fact, I would say I actually left the meeting feeling empathetic to the situation they are in. The Rangers are just as passionate as mountain bikers when it comes to OC parks and are just trying to preserve what little land is left for generations to come. At the end of the day, the Rangers are here to keep the peace and ensure the rules of the park are followed. They do not make the rules. However, they have the ability to present evidence that the rules need to be changed. In my personal opinion, they do not have it out for mountain bikers or the growing nature of the sport. That being said, I do believe that Rangers are disconnected from the mountain bike community. And I would say that is not their fault and not due to a lack of trying to understand the sport. Viewing this as an outsider looking in, mountain biking is not the easiest sport to understand. especially considering how fast it is growing and evolving. Gone are the days where only a handful of riders have the skill levels to ride more challenging terrain. Instead, we find ourselves with a new generation that are riding trails that adults would have never touched at their age. We are also seeing mountain biking becoming a normalized sport, where parents, business executives, and even people in their 60s are realizing that mountain biking gives them the opportunity to enjoy nature, while getting healthy all at the same time. It is said that mountain biking is also becoming the new golf in the business world, and this truly shows the reach of our sport. Anytime a sport grows this fast, it is extremely important to have trail advocacy groups that can speak to the rangers and act as the voice of the mountain bike community. After reaching out to a plethora of riders over the last few days from different age, skill, and riding ability levels, it is of my opinion that the current groups representing the mountain bikers as a whole do not have the voice of the majority of riders out there, and that is where communication is being broken between rangers and mountain bikers. While I understand that these groups are trying to abide by the current laws and regulation, I also see that by not representing the majority of riders out there, they are not helping with the current state of the relationship between rangers and riders. For relationships between rangers and mountain bikers to improve, rangers need to communicate with, well, mountain bikers. Currently, the rangers have reached the point of frustration with the relationship with mountain bikers to the point where they are considering closing the park to mountain biking. When I heard this before going into the meeting, I thought that was crazy. But after hearing their reasoning, I can understand how they got to that point. Imagine you have an issue and you keep trying to reach out to the user group you have an issue with, thinking they speak for mountain bikers. Time and time again, the same issue arises. Eventually, you reach a point where you feel like communication is pointless and you turn to severe measures. Now, while I feel like shutting the parks down to mountain biking would solve a lot of their problems in the short term, I do not feel it is an acceptable solution, especially given the fact that thousands of mountain bikers, as well as hundreds of mountain bike related businesses, make up the economy surrounding the parks. Now, addressing the issues the rangers are facing. One of their biggest frustration is the use of unauthorized trails. I would like to emphasize here that this was taught to me by a wise old mountain biker. My use of the word unauthorized versus illegal. This is probably one of the most controversial topics between not only rangers, but riders as well. Over the last few days, I have spoken to a lot of riders on this topic, both those who ride unauthorized trails and those who are firmly opposed. I have been on the forums reading people's rants on the topics. I have listened to the rangers' point of view, and I have also stepped back and tried to view my thoughts as well, from a bit more of a non-biased perspective. And I have come to the conclusion that those who ride unauthorized trails absolutely do not ride them to intentionally cause harm or be disrespectful to authority. They ride them to challenge themselves. They ride them to escape the fire road width of a majority of trails that are a result of trying to group all user groups into a small set of trails that are deemed authorized. And in some cases, they even ride them to protect not only hikers, but themselves as well from any legal consequence of potentially colliding with a hiker on a trail system that, for the most, is slow to adopt and grow with the increased amount of trail users. It is not a move of purposeful disrespect, but rather a forced reaction to a problem that has arisen and is not being dealt with accordingly by higher up officials. The ironic thing is that riders choosing to ride unauthorized trails actually are contributing to spread the traffic out in the parks and are lowering the overall footprint on certain trails in the park while keeping other user groups safe. Now, after giving a lot of thought on the issues at hand, I personally am going to choose to only ride authorized trails going forward. This is not because I agree with the reasoning given as to why certain trails are unauthorized. It is not me looking down on riders who choose to continue to ride unauthorized trails. It is me recognizing that the way to change is to work with the rangers rather than against them. A long time ago, someone told me that the way to effective change is to step up and make it happen. And that is what I'm doing here. And after leaving that meeting, I truly feel that rangers can be supportive of modern day mountain biking. especially when they see the sheer number of riders out there and how many more have yet to come. I truly believe that there is strength in numbers, and mountain bikers can be one of the most passionate groups out there and truly step up to the plate. And as I mentioned earlier, rangers are just doing their job and following the rule book. And at the end of the day, in the words of the rangers, we need compelling evidence to show that trails need to be adopted by the parks. And I think with the growing nature of both mountain biking, as well as an increase in the amount of people hiking in the parks, the compelling reason is here. We need to show not only the rangers, but the land managers as well, that mountain bikers make up not only a large percentage of the user group in the park, but also the economy of Orange County as well. The rangers are open to mountain bike only trails. They are open to working with riders to help bring in unauthorized trails. They are even open to having trail docents that are actual mountain bikers who can help maintain the trails by getting certified by the parks. However, with this comes the mentality of why listen to mountain bikers when they won't listen to us. And we can all sit around and point fingers onto whether it's social media, Strava, wilderness cameras, but I don't think we have to. I think blaming people for using unauthorized trails only contributes to the idea that these trails are evil, and they're not. If you want to see change and you want to see mountain biking more accepted by the parks, we need to show the rangers and the land managers that there are a lot of mountain bikers out there and we're not going anywhere. And by working with the rangers and expressing our concerns and needs, we can better help them understand who we are as a user group and what needs to happen over the next few years by the land managers. So here is what I am proposing. If you want to see change in the community and want mountain biking to become part of the culture in Laguna, we need to show rangers that we are willing to work with them rather than ignore them. And this includes the following. Sticking to authorized trails only, especially if you want to see unauthorized trails open in the future. I completely understand the frustration some riders will feel, and I also understand the argument that other riders can stop and we will just continue to poach and evade. But the reality is the sport is growing too fast, and there is too many capable riders out there to continue to have the mentality that rangers will continue to turn a blind eye only if a handful of riders are riding them. Laguna is not a hidden community. It is not hard to get to, and unauthorized trails are not hard to see or find. Another thing is respect the ranger's work. If you see a trail close sign or big sticks in front of a trail, leave them there. They're just doing their job. And at the end of the day, taking those signs down doesn't do anything to help any situation. Another one is get active. Even if you don't agree with the current trail advocacy group, I personally don't agree with the two current ones. There are other ways to communicate with the rangers. Send them an email. Set up a meeting to talk to them. Say hi when you see them on the trails and communicate with them. I'm personally going to be meeting with them more regularly, so if there's anything you guys want me to ask them, send me an email. Another thing is be friendly when you are out on the trail. A lot of examples were brought up of hiker/biker confrontations. Hikers are an interesting user group because a good amount of them locally are nowhere near as invested in their sport as mountain bikers are in ours. So for some of these hikers, they may have never even seen a mountain biker before, and fear is often their reaction. If you see a hiker out there, I cannot emphasize this enough, but try to be nice to them. Ask them how their hike is going, and tell them to have a great day. This is not a battle we want, and having a healthy relationship with hikers is going to show that mountain bikers are not evil trail users, and is only going to help us out. And as for e-bikes, unfortunately, no matter what you think of them, they are illegal in the park. I actually am not too opposed on e-bikes, just because I do feel like they are perfect for a certain user group out there. However, I highly encourage anyone who thinks likewise or is using an e-bike to reach out to your bike shop or the frame manufacturer and explain to them the situation at hand, because I really feel like these bike manufacturers and the bike shops as well should be at the front lines fighting for trail access for e-bikes and explaining to customers that these bikes are not yet authorized in the trails. The Rangers are just following the rules, and it's a rule that can be changed. But just as with unauthorized trails, I truly think the answer here lies in working with the Rangers rather than against them. At the end of the day, if you are watching this video, you can do whatever you want to do. I'm not your boss, and I'm just another mountain biker out here who's sitting in front of you reading a speech he typed up from his laptop because he doesn't own a printer. But I'm honestly saying that I left that meeting with a feeling that Rangers want to work with mountain bikers, but they just don't know enough on the sport and are communicating with the wrong riders. I truly feel that a healthy relationship can be had with all parties, but is going to take some work. I am cautiously optimistic, and if I get any other feeling than that, you guys will be the first to know. Thank you guys so much for bearing with me as I read that. I know it's sometimes a lot kind of more engaging if I'm talking straight to the camera. However, like I said, it's a very sensitive topic, and I did feel like I had to read from that script. If I actually had access to a podcast, I would have read it there. But I just wanted to get that message across to you guys. So thank you guys so much for listening. And now we are going to have road trip videos because, like I mentioned, we are on the road. We're living in our van. We're headed up to Canada. We're going to be there for about a month or two. And we are just going to be having a really awesome time riding so many trails. I'm going to bring you guys all the footage, bring you guys along with us. So like I said, if you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe. If you enjoy this message and you feel like other people need to hear it, share it with other riders out there. And if you have any questions for me, do not hesitate to reach out. Normally, email is the best way. Shoot me a message on Instagram if you want, @MoAwesome, or even leave it in the comment section. But I'm happy to get back to you guys. I might have a little bit limited access just because we are on the road, but I will try my best to get back to you guys. And as always, thank you guys so much for the support. And until next time, you guys, ride awesome. Yoo!